Hi, friends, and welcome back. Today, I want to come with a question that I think is appropriate for this coming year of 2025. So, first, let me wish everyone out there a happy new year, and I hope that this year brings you clarity. Um, but not only clarity, I hope it brings you self knowledge. I hope it brings you expansion and I hope that it also brings you manifestation. I think that it gets lost on us that we are deliberate creators of our own life experience. The powers that be have conditioned us for so long that we are essentially powerless when it comes to governing our own lives or making things happen. And that just simply isn't true. And so recently, mm, probably not recently, for the past 20 years, I've been in this space, but the past 5 years, I think we've seen just an explosion of teachers on YouTube and on social media, all over Instagram, that are discovering or remembering is a better word, that we do have some control, a lot of control over our life experience, and that we do have the power to create our lives a in a manner that is way more satisfactory than what we've been living pretty much as victims of anything that happens to us. And so things like law of attraction, things like manifestation, those are starting to become mainstream concepts, and I encourage you to go back and listen to some of my previous podcasts where I talk a lot about law of attraction, where I talk about manifestation and how to manifest, and where I just talk about the spiritual path in general so that you can begin creating the life that you want. So the question that I think is important for this year, 2025, because chaos is just breaking out on every side. We all can see it, we all can feel it. You can't even really deny it anymore. It has just gotten, a little bit out of control, for lack of a better word. So, it's going to require that we understand ourselves fully and completely, and that we kind of grab the reins and take control in whatever way that means to us. For some, that's going to mean being way more proactive about life. For some, that may mean turning inward and maybe removing some energy away from being out in the world and on all the time. It may mean that you need to turn inward and get quiet and do more meditation. So, whatever that thing is for you, I'm going to encourage you to figure that out, because it's getting ready to ramp up a whole lot more as we begin to make this transition into the new earth. I mean, people are predicting things like natural disasters. If you've been watching the news, there's potentially even an alien invasion going on currently. So you're just really going to have to sit with yourself and kind of figure out what is it that I need as I move forward so that I can be strong and healthy and be my best. And I want you all to start thinking about that, but I also want you to start thinking about the fact that it's going to really require that we all get a little bit tougher and a little bit stronger. And so when I say that, I'm speaking to myself as well. That as we move into this new state of being, or as we make this transition, I mean, we're starting to see things that are just crazy. And so you're going to have to be rooted, you're going to have to be grounded, as I said, and you're going to have to be strong. And so I wanted to offer this question that it's a phrase that I say to myself, but it really is a question. And we're going to flesh that out a little bit. So, the question that I ask myself when I find myself in situations that I don't want to be in is, are you going to be a whiner, or are you going to be a warrior? And I think that that is a very appropriate question for 2025, because coming out of the gate, everything is shifting. And so I ask myself, when I'm in situations that I don't want to be in, and I'm tempted to complain, and I'm tempted to, kind of shy away or back away from what I'm facing, I asked myself, are you going to be a whiner or are you going to be a warrior? And so let me talk a little bit about that and see if I can shift your perspective or give you something to think about in regards to that question. I think that for a long time, we have been conditioned that life is supposed to be fun and life is supposed to be easy. And while that is 100% true, I think what was missing from that equation was that for life to be easy and for life to be fun, it required our full participation and it required our growth. And that piece has really not been a part of that conversation. And so, generally speaking, past generations, we just wanted to, I always say feed our flesh or have a lot of sex or eat good food or, I think we just wanted to do so much of that we were without balance and we were without the understanding that in the process of all of that, we were supposed to be developing ourselves. And so I think that what we did as humanity is we started to use having fun as an escape from the difficult part of expansion and growth. And that is really why we're here. And like I said, that has not been a part of the conversation. And so when you're not growing and when you're not expanding, you're really not going to be having a fun time here. And when I say here, I mean in human form in these earthly bodies. And that piece of the conversation has been missing. And so people have been trying to drug it away and eat it away and sex it away and just have all this fun and shirk all this responsibility. But at the end of the day, underneath all of that, those people still weren't satisfied. You're only going to be satisfied when you are evolving and when you are developing yourself and when you are expanding. And when you are doing that, you're going to find that life is exciting, life is fun. And so the sex, the food, all that kind of stuff, the travel, those things just become the backdrop for our own growth and expansion. And it took me a long time to understand that when I would sit in those moments and I would ask myself, you know what is life about? Like, this is really sucking and this is really hard. And it really is. It's hard being a human being. And even the people that are mastering their lives, they're still facing some level of difficulty. And sometimes I think that the more evolved you are, even the greater difficulty you will experience. And if you're religious, I think of Jesus on the cross. He is the greatest human being to ever live. He was a master, but yet he was crucified at the end. He was hunted by people that were envious, that were jealous, and just to die that horrific, painful way. So that is what life is. And I think that that gets lost when we are living our day to day lives. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to get upset or get depressed about it, but just as you're moving throughout your life, as you're encountering things, you want to start asking yourself the question, what is here for me to expand? What is here for me that I can use to grow? And so, as long as you're doing that, you're going to find life fun. You're going to find life relatively easy. And I'll use that word easy kind of loosely. But when you're just going from goal to goal or challenge to challenge and you are overcoming that, you're going to find life way more satisfactory than if you're sitting and you're whining and you're complaining and you're essentially tapping out of life. Then you're going to find yourself craving the sex, the food, the drugs, the shopping, because you're trying to numb down the pain that you're experiencing because you're not evolving yourself. So that question that I asked myself, are you going to be a whiner or are you going to be a warrior? That is something that I use to kind of snap me out of those moments and to snap me back into the realization that life is really about my own development. That as long as I am expanding, as long as I am meeting the challenges, that I'm going to feel pretty good about my life. And so we are supposed to be deliberate creators. We are supposed to be manifesting very good things in our lives, but there has to be a congruence there. You can't manifest a yacht if you're not evolving yourself. It's just not going to happen. And if you were to kind of hit the lottery or something like that and get a yacht, odds are it would be repossessed. You have to expand and develop yourself, your personhood, your spirit, or the manifestation process is just not going to work. So I wanted to come and talk about that. You are supposed to be evolving, and at times, yes, it does get a little inconvenient. I'll put it that way. But I'm reminded of a baby or of a toddler when they're just now learning about life and they are discovering things like cause and effect. Essentially, we get older, but that process is still the same. That process of learning, of discovering, if I do this, then this will happen. If I'm positive, then my life will unfold a certain way. If I'm negative, then my life will unfold a different way. I think that process really still applies. Our bodies are bigger, but when they touch the hot stove, they figure out, oh, I'm going to get burned. Cause and effect. We're still learning that. We're still figuring that out. And I think about a toddler who is learning to walk and grabbing on the chair and grabbing on the table and trying to pull himself up. And yes, he's whining, and yes, he's crying, and he may get a little bump on his head, a little bruise, but he doesn't give up. He keeps trying until he learns to walk. And that process still continues for us as adults. Like, we're supposed to be evolving and growing. And that baby eventually reaps the reward when he takes his first step, and then his second step, and then he's walking, and then he's running. And to him, it was all worth it. And so, I kind of look at this process like that. Like, yeah, it can be difficult, but the reward is so great. I'm just going to push through. So, Happy New Year, y'all. I wanted to come and talk about that and invite you into this space with me where you shift your perspective about what life is. And yes, we're going to have a lot of fun. And yes, we're going to manifest great things. But at the same time, we know that as a spirit in human form, that is why we are here. And we're not going to lose sight of that. So when things get tough, we're going to remind ourselves, you know what? I'm not going to whine right here. I'm getting ready to warrior. And we're just going to push through every single thing that comes our way. And we're going to reap the benefits of being an expanded soul and being.